Hello, welcome to HealingXJWS.com's Blog Talk Radio Show. I think, let me see if one of these is Nate. Nate, which are you on there?
Richard is on here.
Okay, Richard's on the air. Nate?
Joe's listening.
Okay, Joe. 509. Who's that? 509.
Richard Rowley.
Okay, Richard. And 732.
That's Wilbur.
Okay, Wilbur Lingle. Okay, I guess Nate is not going to be on the air. I thought he was going to be on the air, but I'm the host for Healing XJWS, and Wilbur Lingle is our guest. He's a former pastor, served as a missionary for, I think, 35 years in Japan, right? Am I correct,
right.
Pastor Lingle?
Yeah.
It was in Japan?
Right. Hello? Yeah.
Your line is kind of a little staticky.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I know what we're here really. I wanted to find out what were you raised as a Christian? Did you convert to Christianity as a pastor?
No, I was not raised in a Christian home. My mother had nothing to do with Christianity. Later on, she was saved. My father took us to Sunday school. But as far as in the home, reading the Bible, praying, anything like that, I never had anything like that. But I did go to Sunday school, and it was through going to Sunday school and the efforts of the church when I was 14. I was saved through a Youth for Christ meeting.
And what church were you attending when you were going to Sunday school?
I was attending an independent Bible church. We just lived in a small community, and it was a little community Bible church at the time.
Oh, okay. It was basically a non-denominational church, right? Or I guess
right.
In the line of like Bible or Brethren churches.
Yeah, it was just
like open Bible churches. I don't know if you've heard of those open Bible churches.
Yeah, it's an open Bible. Just don't have they're Bible believing, but just don't belong to a denomination. But that's what it was. Yeah.
So, at what age did you get saved? That you became born again?
I was 14.
14. Okay.
Yeah, October 43. Yeah.
Did you at 14? I guess when you became a Christian, did you know you wanted to serve as a pastor?
Well, after I was saved. I was fortunate at the church. If you're saved, you read your Bible and pray. That was just known. So whenever I got saved, then I started reading my Bible and praying. And then 3 months after I was saved, the Lord spoke to me and called me into the ministry. And then about 6 months later, then I received the call to the mission field. And then whenever I was in college, that's when the Lord spoke to me and led me to Japan.
And did you go to Bible college?
I went to Bob Jones University.
Bob Jones University.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got my degree there, my master's there at Bob Jones.
And then, so you was in Japan for 30 years, 35 years, was it?
35 years, from 1954 to 1989. I was involved in church planting there.
Yeah, I have a friend right now who's a pastor who's serving in China right now. We had him on the broadcast a couple of weeks back. I mean, like a year ago. So, that's an interesting experience. I know what's happening right now in Japan's got to be, for you having been there, it's got to be something else.
Yeah, it's a very difficult time for the thing. One of the difficult things in Japan right now, it's a real disaster, but the Japanese don't like to be an obligation to anybody. So if people outside help them out, instead of appreciating, that puts them under obligation to these other countries. So it makes it a rather difficult situation to help them in the situation. When I was in Japan, early Japan, what would happen if there was a disaster all over the country, they would collect money from Japan and send it to the people. I remember one town, the heart of the whole city burnt down, and I remember coming collecting, and we all helped and shared that. Now more of it comes from the government, but it makes it difficult, and this is a real hard situation for them that they find themselves in now. And we just pray that somehow that it might waken them up to the spiritual needs that they have, that life is short.
Well, I read that Franklin Graham has gone down there now, and I think his ministry is, I think it's Compassion International, something like that.
Good, Samaritan Purse, yeah.
Samaritan Purse, that's right, Samaritan Purse. So he's down there now, but yeah, like you said, I think the reason why they're hesitant to accept help from other nations.
Yeah.
And it looks like because of their hesitancy, that's why they're still having problems. I mean, it's been out of the news. Libya and Osama is now dominating the news, but they're having serious problems with the nuclear plant down there.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know. After the initial earthquake, they had over 1,000 other earthquakes, minor ones, but they had 1,000 ones. And I have a friend over there, a correspondent. They said we only had 27 earthquakes today. So, but they seem to be calming down a little bit now. The last I heard, I haven't heard of the tremors lately.
Well, so what brought you into the ministry of writing books on the cults? What was it that drew you to that? What was, I guess, did you have like an experience with a Jehovah's Witness or a Mormon that brought that desire for you to start writing on these subjects?
Okay, I'll tell you. When I was in Japan, we had 4 Mormon missionaries that moved into the area where I had my church. And they were going around telling people that I was of the devil and people shouldn't attend my church. And at the time, we had a class for 3-year-old children in the area, and we had a good reputation. And we'd been in there for 13 years at that time, and so a lot of people knew us. So we didn't think that was the best approach to have. Well, then the Mormons came to my church, and they wanted me to study with them. Well, the first time, I was busy, and it took me 15 minutes to get rid of them, and one missionary said he was from Germany, and I said, you're a liar because there's no German missionaries here. Well, I was right. But they came back a week later and sort of apologized, and they wanted me to study with them. Well, I said, and read the Book of Mormon. I said, well, I'm busy, and I said, it'll take me a couple of months to read it, but if you'll come back and answer the questions, because I'm a very inquisitive person, I'll study with you. Well, the first time we met, I realized there was a major problem because we were using the same words with different meanings is what they had. And they come back 2 times, and they said, well, we can't come back anymore. I said, well, you promised, but their promise didn't mean anything like that. Well, then I borrowed every cult book I could get my hands on to read about the Mormons, and while they told me facts, they didn't tell me how to witness. And so then, since I started, I just began persisting, going to the missionaries, and I was reading the Book of Mormon and studying it there. And so over about a period of a year, then I began to be rather effective witnessing to the Mormons. And so after they came to me first, but then I would go to them and witness to them, and I got to be pretty well known. And so then they came around and asked me if I would lay off of their missionaries. Well, I had gone to them before and asked them to lay off, and they said, we'll go anywhere we want to, do anything we want to. I said, well, I'll go anywhere I want to. So I thought this was something because I studied and put pressure on them that there was 80 of them, and they had to run. And I did a lot of reading. I found some other books and different things about Mormon books and different things, and I did a lot of reading, and I did a lot of witnessing, and so I worked on that. And then about this time, the Jehovah's Witnesses started to come in to Japan, and this is a sad thing. Back in, I think it's 1969, they had 9,000 people, believers. Today they have about 210,000. Now finally they stopped there and things. Well, then the Jehovah's Witnesses started coming around, And we had a Bible class for our church, and the Jehovah's Witnesses would come around, and people say, well, I'm going to this Bible class. And they'd say, well, this is wonderful. We believe the Bible. Can't we study together? And sad to say, they deceived a few people. So in order to try to defend the people, I started studying the Watchtower Society. And the thing, again, I read every cult book I could get my hands on, but I couldn't really find anything to witness. And I made the mistake. I went down John 1:1, immortality, soul, hellfire, Trinity, 144,000. And I just didn't make any progress. And I said, there has to be some way, there has to be some better way to witness to these people than the way I'm doing them. Well, in 1986, I was home in the States, and I went up to the meeting for the ex-Jehovah's Witnesses in the Poconos in October, and I questioned everyone that was saved there that I possibly could. And they all said they questioned the Watchtower Society. And I said, well, that's my mistake. I'm gone on doctrine, and it's the society, it's the problem. And
right.
Then I began to do a little bit of studying with mind control. And I changed my tactics, and while Jehovah's Witnesses are not easy to convert, it made it much easier to witness and things. And
right.
And so because I had spent so much time, I used to own almost every book and magazine the Watchtower Society owned. And I had witnessed to many of them, and I realized that most people couldn't spend the time and couldn't read like I did, and so that's the reason I felt a burden for writing a book, and that's why I wrote my first book, Approaching Jehovah's Witnesses in Love, How to Witness Effectively Without Arguing.
I remember that book. That's where I met you in Pennsylvania at the Witnesses Now for Jesus retreat that Joan Sentner hosts, and that's when you came out with that book. I tell you, it's got to be a lot easier writing for the Mormons than the Jehovah's Witnesses, who every few years change their books. So that forces you to now have to deal with whatever's their new publication that they're going to use for study, which is why you've written your new book, What the Watchtower Society Doesn't Want You to Know. Just I want to give out some of your information. Pastor Lingle has a website. It's lovetoshareministries.com. And on that website, he has not only the What the Watchtower Society Doesn't Want You to Know, but you also have a book on Islam also, don't you?
Yes.
What's the title of that book?
That's the newest book that I have just been out 2 months, Burning Questions About Islam, and the subtitle is A Panoramic Study for Concerned Christians. And that explains Islam quite a bit in detail. And it's also designed for people who want to try to witness to them. We take the process to be able to make friends with them, and then we have some very thought-provoking questions which we can ask the Muslims to try to witness to them. And with Islam is out there, it's going to be around for a while. This is a book that everybody should read, and we hope use it with the Muslims.
Okay. Well, now I'm going to open up the line for callers because we have a lot of callers right now for this broadcast.
Okay.
So I'm going to, and because it's called Ask the Pastor, so I'm going to see what questions some of our callers have for you. Area code 204.
Good morning.
Hello. Good morning.
Hi. How are you doing?
All right. And this is Chris, right?
Yeah, it's Chris Christensen. Yeah.
Do you have any questions for Pastor Lingle?
Well, I just got in. I was a little late. I had some other things, so I didn't catch all of the interview.
Okay. Well, you want me to just jump to somebody else because we have like a bunch of callers.
Go ahead. I'll fill in later.
Okay. Area code 931. Area code 931. Do you have a question for Pastor Lingle, our guest? 931? You're probably just listening. Okay. Area code 509. Hello? 509. Well, there's a lot of people quiet. 218. Hello? 218. Caller, you're on there, 218. It could be Pastor Lingle. We just have a whole bunch of people just wanting to listen to the broadcast. Area code 306, I think. 308. Hello?
Hello?
Yes,
Hello?
do you have a question? Hello, you have a question for Pastor Lingle?
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't press 1 to talk.
Oh, you just wanted to listen?
Oh, no, it's okay. I can. Hi, Pastor Wilbur. It's Barb Sinclair. How are you doing, brother?
Oh, okay. Good. Good to hear.
I've been enjoying your book, What the Watchtower Society Doesn't Want You to Know, and I want to thank you for that. In your book, I'm just looking. You mentioned that Charles Taze Russell borrowed his theology from some of the Millerites and early Seventh-day Adventists.
Yes.
In that history of them borrowing, I have been doing some studies. I'm finding that the Watchtower Society claims to receive their teachings from Jehovah God as a channel of communication, but what I'm finding is they borrow theology from other, I would say, who they would call Christendom. I think somebody told me that's called syncretism, whereas they take certain doctrines from other Christian denominations and pull them all together to put together their one unique theology. I found that I was studying tulip theology with Calvinism, and that they take the elect doctrine from Calvinism's elect doctrine, meaning that God only died for the elect, and they say that's 144,000.
Right.
So I want to thank you for writing your book. It has opened up my understanding to how the Watchtower Society formed, and also listening to many of my dear friends who are former witnesses. Thank you so much, and I'll now listen to the call.
Okay, thank you.
Pastor Lingle, actually, this book is a bit more extensive than your other books that you've written on the Watchtower Society, isn't it?
It's a little more what?
It's a lot more extensive.
Well, the Watchtower Society don't want you to know, that's highly documented. Everything in there is documented. Everything is come right out of their material. Right. Really, one of the main reasons there are a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses that have questions, but they think, well, maybe it's just me that's having the questions, you see. And I wanted to realize, no, it's not them. They have come to some good conclusions and try to help those that are mainly on the fringe to come out and to realize that there's been a lot of other Jehovah's Witnesses that have come out. Because, they'll tell you, well, if you come out, where are you going to go? Well, there's a lot of other people come out. But we hope, sad to say, so many of them come out and become atheists. But we want them to know Christ is their own personal Savior and have eternal life is the desire that I have.
Yeah, I know a lot of ex-witnesses that do become atheists. They just reject religion in general and actually become antagonistic towards all religion.
Yeah.
Let me take another call. 513. 513, you're on the air.
Hello, how you doing? Hello?
It's Everett. Yeah.
Hey, how you doing? How you doing
today? All right. You have any
questions
questions for Pastor Lingle?
Yes, I do. I thought the Greek, I think the information said the Greek Orthodox guy was going to be on, but anyhow, I've been listening in. I was going to ask Pastor Lingle, he said that he was more effective using other things other than doctrinal issues, like dealing with the Watchtower Society itself. What specific things did you find helpful, and how effective has it been in helping people to remove themselves from that organization? And what particularly did you use? Was it like the dates, or which things did you find most effective in helping witness to people under the Watchtower authority?
Okay. What you're doing, I wish I could be more positive. You're sowing seed, okay? In my experience, I have found that many of those who Jehovah's Witnesses have come into Christ has not been because one person led them to Christ. Right? What happened is somebody sowed seed, and they began to do some thinking. They began to do reading the Bible, and many of them are saved on their own. It's the process which they do. And so what? Like I have one question which I find rather effective. If you come in and you begin to tell the Jehovah's Witnesses where they've changed, they're going to rebel. But I have one say, I'm interested in hearing understanding about the history of the Watchtower Society. Would you tell me something about the Watchtower Society? Well, most of them don't want to talk about the society. They say, well, that's old stuff. We want to keep up to the modern thing. So I'll say to them, well, I would presume that from the very beginning to the present time, all your doctrines and all your teachings and everything have been exactly the same. Is that a right presumption? Well, they will say, no. Well, I'll say, well, what do you mean? Well, then they will tell you, we used to celebrate birthdays, now we don't. We used to celebrate holidays, now we don't. We used to salute the flag, now we don't. We could take blood transfusions, and now we don't. And they'll go down the list and tell you. Okay, they're telling you their own different things. And then after they get down the list, you pump them, and so they'll tell you more. So they'll tell you the differences, the changes. Okay, so then the thing is, okay, so they admit that they made changes. Okay, all right. So now we come to the question: is where do these teachings come from? I mean, if they can change, they're clearly not from God. You see, they have to be from man. So where does your teaching come from? And so how do I know what you're telling me now is not going to change, and what is going to change? Because I don't want to believe false doctrine. I don't want to believe false teaching. You see, and so then you get them rather confused, and then as they explain things to you, you say, well, is this absolute, or is this something that's going to change? You see what I mean? And as you know, they keep talking about the new light. Right? Well, is this going to be not new light, but true light? Right? And by working on there, so they have undermined the society themselves. Okay? So once they have told you that they make changes, and if they get new light and they can still get new light, the only logical conclusion is they still do not have a perfect system. You see?
Right.
And so that's how you get them to question the society. And so after that, you can get anything they teach.
How effective has this been? Like, have you had any people that have come out because of that method? Because it's pretty interesting what you said. I like that. But I was wondering, have you had any success, like particular numbers that you can think of, or people that you can think of who have benefited from that method?
I think I worked for one fellow 25 years. When I started with him, he was their leading. He was supposed to be their expert on the whole thing, and his wife, she hated me. I mean, she despised me. Well, I worked over him a long time, and finally got him out. And then she came out, and I had a beautiful opportunity to witness to them. I cannot say whether they were saved or not, but I had a wonderful opportunity to witness to them. But through the process, as what I went through a trial and error basis, is what the thing. And but through my book, There's been many people used it, and there's been people saved just by reading the book. One fella, he was a Jehovah's Witness, and he was going to read the book to prove that I was wrong. And what happened, he got saved, and then he used my book to witness to others. And I wish I could say, there's large numbers being saved, but I can't say that. But I'm only responsible for presenting the word. And like I said, I was a missionary in Japan. That was a difficult field, as you see. But what you do, you try to do what I tell them. Show them what a Christian's like. The sad thing is, the unsaved don't like him, but most of the people, when they go from door to door, the Christians are rude to Jehovah's Witnesses. Most Jehovah's Witnesses have never met a kind, loving Christian. Well, show them. And that's why I say building a relationship is important. And what you want to do, no matter what happens, when you get done, you want to be friends with them. You don't have to be enemies with them, but show them that they're different. And my wife dealt with them, and she really had them, because you're either a righteous Jehovah's Witness or you're in false Babylon. Well, my wife loves the Lord. She reads the Bible. She prays. She doesn't go out and do all these things. They didn't know what to do, you see. And I often say, show them what a Christian is before you tell them. Okay?
Yeah, in fact, you know what, Pastor Lingle, I've used a method similar to that. I remember when I was helping Joe Bell, who's a person I helped bring out of the organization. She was studying to be a witness. And I asked her a question. I said, according to, because she wanted to know, well, why did I leave the Jehovah's Witnesses? I told her, well, according to the Watchtower Society, we're supposed to examine our faith, right? And she says, yeah. And I said, in fact, and I showed her the scripture, 1 Thessalonians 5:21, where it talks about they examine all things. So I said, do you believe that? She said, yeah. And I said, well, if you believe that, then I want to show you some things. And after I show you those things, I want to get your thoughts on. And she said, okay. So I gave her some material. And I got back to her. She says, yeah, but they're the only ones who have the truth. I said, well, what I showed you, was it the truth? She says, but the light's getting brighter. I said, well, then I have one question to ask you. How do you know that what you believe currently and what they're teaching currently won't change tomorrow and will be the old light for tomorrow? Mm-hmm. And I said, you can't really say with any confidence that what you're currently being taught won't change, because those people who believed those things then thought that was the truth. And she realized that, right, she didn't have any real confidence, no real reason to associate with what she was being currently taught was going to not change. And, and based on that, she realized she needed to really examine her religion and start and stop her study with the witnesses. They were going through the questions, baptismal questions for her. But yeah, so I mean, I think what it is you have to cause a current Jehovah's Witness or even a person who's studying to be a Jehovah's Witness to lose their reliability in the Watchtower Society.
Yeah. Hey, let me read you something. I didn't mention, I have a little booklet, 20 important questions for Jehovah's Witnesses, which is a good little booklet on it. And here's something that was found in the December the 1st, 1998, Watchtower magazine. This is from their magazine. It says, when genuinely interested individuals ask for proof for the belief we hold dear, or when they inquire about the false changes as raised by opposers, it is our responsibility to defend our faith, providing sound biblical answers. We are willing to give a clear explanation of our hereforth convictions to others. Indeed, we welcome the opportunity. Jehovah's organization does not discharge sincere or timely questions as some opposers mistakenly claim. Asking responsible questions and searching God's Word and Christian publications to find scriptural answers can increase our accurate knowledge and can thus strengthen our confidence in Jehovah. And that's what they don't practice. But what I tell people, always ask, never tell. This is the secret if you're talking to Jehovah's Witnesses. Because if I talk to you, you can listen to me, you don't have to. But if I ask you a question, then you have to listen to me. And asking the question is the best way to do it. Okay?
And when you ask a question, you put yourself in the seat of someone who's not teaching, and they love that.
Yeah.
They want to be
Let
teaching.
them be the teacher, but you're in control as a student asking the questions. So, good.
Yeah. And that's what Jesus did. He did effective questioning to the Pharisees.
Yeah.
All right, let me put Richard on the line and see if he has a question to ask you. Hello, Richard? Richard? Okay, I guess he went back to listening. Let me see. Area code 306?
Yes, hello, that's still me. It's still Barb.
Oh, okay. Let me put somebody else. 509. Hello,
yeah,
509.
Can you hear me?
Okay, there you go. Richard, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Say, Gus, did you send Everett an email saying that David Whitham is going to be on this morning?
No. That's on next week's broadcast.
Not this
On
morning.
the 20.
No? Well,
Yeah,
see,
not
that's
this
why
morning.
I had a lot of people listening that didn't answer because they called me back and said, I thought you said David was going to be on this morning, which I told him he was. So I'm trying to find out where the mistake is because they're getting all disgusted with people not being on when they're told they would be on. So I don't know what the problem is. I want to get it straightened out here because a lot of people ain't going to call in again because they're so disgusted with what happened. They were expecting because I told them one thing and now something else happened. That's not very good for me or you.
No, people just got to look at the dates that I've advertised the programs for. For the 14th, I have Ask the Pastor, which is Wilbur Lingle, and for the 21st, I have David Whitson, and for the 28th, I have Mason Emerson.
All right. Okay.
Right.
Anyway, yeah. So.
And I'm in the process of booking J.P. Holding, James Patrick Holding for June, and another Pastor Woodlard from June also.
So what you're telling me, Gus, is you have not sent Everett an email saying that this Daniel would be on this week, right? You didn't, David Whitham would not be on this week. You did not send that to him, right?
No.
All right, he's listening.
He probably didn't pay attention to the date.
Well, he's usually pretty good about them things, but I want to make it clear to Everett, you did not receive an email from Gus saying that David Whitham would be on.
I'll put Everett on right now.
All right, go ahead, put him on.
Everett, you there?
Yes. Hey, Gus, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
My email, I read it directly to Richard. Whoever's sending out your whoever's sending out your scheduling is doing it wrong because when I got the message, it did say I read the dates to Richard and everything who was going to be on this week because I called him. And whoever's sending out your
You're on the Healing blog, right?
No, this came through my email. It says, come join me at BTR, Guest Orthodox. Here's what it says. It's real quick. I'm just going to say it real quick. I know you got a guest on. It says, Guest Orthodox David Whitson will be on. It says it's May 21st on that one, right?
Right.
And then the other one says, let me see.
May 21st.
May 28th.
May 28th.
Okay, I didn't get one for this week. You're right.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
That was my mistake.
Yeah, just pay attention to the dates. Just look at them dates.
Yeah, I messed up on that one.
All right.
Well, maybe we can straighten it out, but we got a lot of people who are really upset. They're calling me all the time. I get a ring every now and then. Why did you tell me you're going to be on this time, see? I'm really upset. We should apologize for that. I apologize for my participation in that. hopefully you forgive me. You should
Well,
apologize
Richard?
too. Go ahead.
Richard, this
Go
is
ahead.
Wilbur. Hi.
Hi,
Say hello
Wilbur.
to you. Okay, go ahead. Okay. I just want to say hi while I have you on the phone. Okay,
Sure,
bye.
no, that's very good. Thank you, Wilbur. I enjoy your being on. It's just when you expect one thing and something else happens, it makes you a little disgusted. People call me all the time here about it.
Yeah.
So I need to get that straightened out. Hope it didn't interrupt your program here.
All right, just make sure to just tell Everett to copy paste everything. That way you have the date too.
All right. Yeah.
I have a lot of broadcasts. I have a lot of guests, so I make sure that just all you got to do is pay attention to the dates.
You should have camping on next week. That's when the end of the world is going to happen. 1 week from today, you know.
Well, I have David on next week, and I have Mason on the following week.
I mean, Harold Camping, he's the one that said the end of the world is
Oh,
going to
yeah,
happen
well,
next Saturday, you know. 1
yeah,
week
well,
from today, it won't matter.
I want Harold Camping to sign me over the title to his house on May 20th.
Well, I tried that, but it wouldn't work. I put up
just
$1 million against
donate all his wealth. Donate all his wealth to some charity on the 20th.
All right, and I'm a good charity. All right, thank you very much. I'll get off now. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Hey, there's one thing I want to say. Well, I didn't say before. If anybody wants to contact me, my number is 732-350-0735. I have all the books if anybody wants them. 732-350-0735. The one on Approaching Jehovah's Witness in Love is $13. What the Watchtower Society doesn't want you to know is $12. Or the 20 questions is $4. And then the one on Islam is $16.95 is what it is. Then there's postage and handling. But I wanted to give out my number. Okay, thank you.
And they're on lovetoshareministries.com / books.html. Let me see about some of these other callers. 218. Hello, 218. All right, 306.
Yeah, that's me. If I may ask, I'm reading in your book. Hello, Brother Wilbur. I'm reading in your book about an occasion where you were just discussing how it's a good thing to ask questions and allow the Jehovah's Witnesses to give us their answers as teachers. And in your book on page 83, you speak about a time where you tried to do that within a kingdom hall, asking thought-provoking questions, and there entered a problem, and they asked you to leave regarding the question you were asking. I'd like you to maybe tell us a bit more about that, and also speak on Chapter 6 of your book, Two Classes of Witnesses, or the two-class system of Christians within the Watchtower Society. Is that biblical according to the New Testament and the new covenant that Christians are under? And I'll listen now. Thank you.
Okay. All right. It was I went to the Kingdom Hall, and I was just sitting. I had received an invitation. Okay. People they came around and passed out little invitation to come to the Kingdom Hall. So I went to the Kingdom Hall, and so this one lady was sitting in front of me. She went up with another lady, and they had a conversation up front. Well, I have a little bit of a hearing problem anyway, and I couldn't hear what they had to say. So then after the meeting was over, it was done, I said, excuse me, but I didn't quite hear the conversation, and I said, would you tell me what you said? Well, they said, really, it wasn't us, it was just parroted, and we have this paper that the material is written on. So I went up and I asked somebody for the material, and they went to get it, and some lady was talking to me. And we were just talking, with no argument, and just talking to the whole thing. And then the elders come back and they said, we'll have to ask you to leave. And I said, well, this lady asked me a question. we weren't raising our voice, we weren't arguing or anything like that. And I said, as soon as I get done talking to her, I will leave. And some more come over and said, I have to ask you to leave. The next thing I knew, there was policemen running down the aisle. And why they did that, I don't know, but that's what happened and the thing. And then dividing the numbers in two classes. If I understand it right, when Charles Russell began, he said these 144,000 are elect people. They're going to go to heaven, and if you hurry up and get in, you're going to be one of those elect people, and you will be of the bride class. Of course, back then, everybody was going to go to heaven. But then as the numbers began to get fuller, this 144,000 began to be a problem. And I think apparently Rutherford recognized this, that, well, what happened whenever you get over 144,000? Well, that's when he said, well, okay, 1935, I have the numbers full, and you can't get in anymore. And so that's why it's divided up into the two classes and the whole thing. But I was just reading some of my material, and it's interesting. The 144,000 are supposed to be the elite class. They're supposed to be the best. But if we take this new light situation, the longer the Watchtower goes, the more pure their teaching should be. So therefore, the early Jehovah's Witnesses had less knowledge, would be less spiritual than the later ones. So if you're talking about being logic, it would seem to be that the later witnesses would be the ones that would be the enlightened ones, and the ones that early ones would be the less enlightened ones. But that's the reason for the cause of the two. And then, of course, just a couple of years ago, because the number of people who are taking the communion, the memorial increased, so they had almost forced to say, well, that number was not fulfilled. Okay?
Yeah. Well, and what's really crazy is the year before 1935 and 1934, just 1 year prior, the Jehovah Book of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society said that the great crowd were prisoners of Satan.
Huh.
Yeah, in the Jehovah Book. It's around page 180 to 183. Yeah, the great crowd were prisoners of Satan who refused to come out of Christendom. And so he had a completely alternative idea of what the great crowd was just 1 year prior to bringing them back into the fold.
Yeah.
But as a second class. But it's Rutherford was all over the place. Maybe it was all the booze he was drinking.
Yeah. That's the thing.
For a while, when I left the Watchtower Society, I actually for about a year and a half, I was a voting member of the Pastoral Bible Institute, which is an affiliate with the International Bible Student Association.
Oh, okay.
So I was officially a Russellite for like about a year and a half.
Oh, brother.
But it's crazy. Let's see, 204.
Hello, I'm back.
Yes.
Okay, I've got a question now relative to identifying the man of lawlessness, Antichrist element. How do you identify that element within the framework of Christendom? Who would that false prophet be?
Well, I couldn't answer. I don't go into speculation on those different things. People have speculated on those different things, and I just personally don't. I don't have it all figured out. I have to be honest with the whole thing. And in fact, I was just reading my devotions today in Revelation, and you have to go someplace else to find that answer. I just can't tell you. And I'm not going to speculate because there's been too much speculation around. For instance, when I was first saved, Mussolini was 666. Well, that was the end of the world. Well, that didn't happen. And then they said, well, Israel becomes a nation. then the end will come. Well, Israel became a nation. Then they said, well, after 7 years, Israel become a nation, then the world will end. Well, it didn't happen. Then they said, well, whenever the European Economic Market becomes 10 members, that's it. Well, now they have well over 10, you see what I mean? And then Saddam Hussein was going to be it. And they've just speculated down through the years, which is not right. And so I personally don't speculate, so I'm sorry I can't answer that one.
Are you like me, Pastor Lingle? I'm a pan-millennialist. It's all going to pan out in the end. A pan-millennialist. Okay. It's all going to pan out in the end.
Yeah. If I could, I'd like to give you my personal speculation, and then you can tell me whether I'm full of baloney or whatever. But anyway, I believe that the man of lawlessness, Antichrist, is the leadership of the Watchtower Society. And I'd like to tell you why. Paul identified 3 specific teachings that identify that element. And we have the connection with Revelation that says there are 3 unclean, inspired expressions, teachings of demons, that lead the people to Armageddon. Well, those 3, I believe, are identifiable, and Paul is the one who identified them. And they're unique to the Watchtower, and to, shall we say, offshoots of the Watchtower, but they come from the Watchtower base. And these 3 teachings are enumerated for you in Thessalonians, 1 Thessalonians, chapter 4, and also in 2 Thessalonians. And it has to do with the false announcements of 3 things that are tied chronologically together. They are the premature announcement of the day of Jehovah, the premature announcement of the return of Christ, and the premature announcement of the first resurrection. Those are Watchtower teachings, and they were false teachings within the apostate Christian church of the first century. So I met a fellow at the Chicago airport. We got into a religious discussion, and I pointed out to him that I believe the Watchtower was the false prophet because they were teaching these 3 things that are false. He agreed with me. And I said, well, that's good. But now I said, you've created a problem for yourself. Well, what's that? Well, you've identified who God's people are. Well, how did I do that? Well, it says in Thessalonians that he sits in the temple of the God. So I said, that's interesting, isn't it? Because what you've got is an apostate religion, Jehovah's Witnesses, who have within their midst the false prophet who teaches these 3 false teachings. And so even though it's an apostate organization, and I've been fighting it for 40 years now, those people are the ones that are under judgment. Those are the people that have to come out. And you people are doing a fine job helping them see the falsehoods of the Watchtower. But you see, go back historically. The Watchtower was a non-denominational organization, just like William Miller was. He wanted people to come out and get ready for the imminent return of Christ. And the Watchtower picked up on his tradition. They went from 1844 to 1874 to 1914. And golly gee, Christ didn't return in any of those occasions. But the Watchtower brought in a new wrinkle. Oh, yes, he did return. We just didn't understand. He came back invisibly. But anyway, in 1931, they took on the name Jehovah's Witnesses. They divorced themselves from Christendom. They were pointing the finger at Christendom's clergy as the man of lawlessness all those years. Well, guess what? If they now are the church, and Christendom is just a bunch of think they're Christian people, but they aren't really. We, Jehovah's Witnesses, are the true church. Well, then they made a very serious error because they should have quit looking at Christendom to see where the man of lawlessness was, because they should have been looking internally. So you see, that pointing the finger out there at Christendom is false, because that's not the church, according to Watchtower thinking. We are the church, okay? So then we should be looking among ourselves for that evil element, because Satan's job isn't to to distract people who don't have the truth, who know nothing, they're already in his hands. He has to worry about the elect, because when the elect are completed, he is done like dinner. So his job is, in his mind, to deceive, if possible, even the chosen one. So if we use Watchtower logic and we come forward in time, we now see that Jehovah's Witnesses are the people that he's dealing with. But what they fail to realize is that Revelation is about Christ protesting that his slaves are a bunch of apostates and he's coming to judge them. See, the house of God gets judged first, and that's because there's a reason for it to be judged, because there's something wrong with it. So I would respectfully suggest that you look at this from a fresh point of view, because although you're being helpful to Jehovah's Witnesses, you're not really dealing with the accurate application, in my opinion. And I could be wrong. But I'll just leave that out there for you, and you can tell me what you think about those three teachings and where you can find them other than with that broad-based Jehovah's Witness movement.
Well, the Mormons also predicted the end of the world, too. And there's others that have predicted the whole thing. And like I said, I wouldn't argue with you if you want to do that. I don't know. I mean, I don't have it all down pat, and I admit that I don't have it down pat. And I would never, I've never tell you wrong. I mean, I have a problem accepting it, but thanks for explaining it anyway. Okay.
Well, let's get area code 480. 480, you on there? Hello? Area code 480. Hello?
Who is this, the moderator?
This is the host.
Oh, the host?
Yeah, do you have a question for Pastor Lingle or just listening?
No, I'm just listening.
Oh, okay. Is it 218? Hello? 218? I guess just another person listening. Well, we only got 4 minutes left anyway in the program. First of all, I just want to thank you, Pastor Lingle, for coming on the air with us and sharing your story and about the years you spent in Japan and how you have a desire and a heart for people that are trapped in the cults. There's not too many pastors that are that are willing to do what you've done is spend the time and the research and the effort to go ahead and write on these subjects and to help people that are trapped in the cults. A lot of people, like you said, in the Christian church can be a little bit mean.
Yeah.
I can share with you a story. My father-in-law, I helped him. I brought him to Christ, and so I was trying to find a good church for him. So I found a good independent Baptist church, and there was one of the deacons there in the church, a guy that's my senior, and so I introduced my father introduced him to me. So I said, my father-in-law, used to be a Jehovah's Witness. And he said, oh, Jehovah's Witness? Oh, when they come and knock on my door, I tell them I'm going to call the police if they don't get off my lawn. And I said, well, that's not a very loving thing for you to do. I said, because, the people that you just said that you could call the police on and you want them off your lawn are people that you have condemned. Those are people that could have been my father-in-law. Those are people that could be my mother, who's still a Jehovah's Witness, or my sister. And you did that because you're not capable or apt enough in your faith to be able to share it or defend it.
Yeah.
And so I think that what people could learn, people that are Christians that might be listening, or even ex-witnesses that want to sharpen themselves on helping others, is, there's a reason why people like yourself have spent this amount of time writing these books, is to give us tools to be able to defend our faith, to be able to share our faith with those that are trapped in cults, and also to equip ourselves so that we ourselves are sensitive to the devil's machinations.
Yeah.
The devil, he doesn't.
Yeah.
There's one lady I'm trying to share. And I told her, she needs to get plugged into a church, and she said she'll never go into an organized religion. I said, that's very, very selfish of you. I said, because see, the story you have to share is for the upbuildment of the church. If you share your story of how you escaped the Jehovah's Witnesses, then you're helping those people in churches so that they won't lose their family members to a cult.
No.
A cult that you almost winded up in yourself. A cult that you have family members in yourself. And so there's a purpose to these books that people like yourself have written, and we shouldn't take it for granted if we're a Christian. We should support these ministries because these ministries are sharpening ourselves. And so I just want to thank you on the program for coming on the program. It's if you're an ex-Jehovah's Witness and you want to discuss some of the issues you have, I invite you to come on www.healingxjws.ning.com, where there's an amalgamation of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses and Jehovah's Witnesses ready to help and ready to to grow and to heal, and because when you come out of a cult, it's a difficult thing. Yeah. And so I just want to thank you, Pastor Lingle, for the work that you're doing and the ministry that you have. I want to offer the site again. It's lovetoshareministries.com, and I hope to see you at PA maybe this year. If not this year, maybe sometime in the future. I'm gonna be there this year, even though you've heard about the fire they had, but they're gonna still have it.
I know about the fire. Yeah, I should be there.
But
thank you for
and I
having
want to
me.
thank you for thank
Yeah.
you for having your service in Japan too. Because we know Japan is aside from the cults, coming into Japan and giving a facade of Christianity, you know that the Japanese are largely atheists, and they need Christ, and they've even rejected their own religion, authentic religions of Hinduism and Buddhism, and so they need help over there in Japan, and maybe this tragedy, people that have, like yourself, that have served as missions will go down there and will brave the dangers and be able to share Christ with those people. So, I just want to end the broadcast saying, we constantly ask our listeners to pray for Jehovah's Witnesses, pray for my family, pray for the families of those that you might know, people that are in your family that might be Jehovah's Witnesses. Don't treat them harshly. Be kind. Pastor Lingle has written another book called Approaching Jehovah's Witnesses, I think with love. That was his older book. But I think that's a good book to pick up. And that's the whole idea, is that approaching people with love, building friendships. Even if you're not an effective witness by what you know, you can be an effective witness by what you do. Yeah. And I think that's your message, Pastor Lingle.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I appreciate being with you, and the Lord bless you.
Yeah, thank you, and may the Lord bless you. And I want to thank all the listeners for listening today. And next week we're going to have Greek Orthodox David Withen, and the subject's going to be, did the ante-Nicene fathers, the apostolic fathers, appear Unitarian or Trinitarian? And we're also going to address what did the early church really look like? Did they believe Jesus was simply a God, or did they believe that he was the Lord, Ho Theos, the God Almighty? And so we're going to have some insights from David and Tom Cabine, who's a former Bethel overseer and now Roman Catholic, might call in. I'm hoping he will, and so they can both give us some perspectives on the early church. from Orthodox and Catholic perspective on what the early fathers taught about those subjects. Thank you, everyone, for calling in, and may God bless your weekend. Bye-bye.